afternoon. Welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. The bulletin is live from our studios here at Adesawe Kanda in Accra and our numerous affiliates across the country. Coming up this afternoon, shortage of liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) hit several outlets across the country, with consumers enduring long queues at a few outlets with available stock. This afternoon, we'll get you the details and also pick the views of the LPG Markets Association on what is accounting for the shortage.
Because honestly, me need a co-pot war. Me need co-pot war. Want me send me into Sesiana. Maybe me say gas are short.
We have details also coming up. Ghana Police Service admits to unlawfully detaining 2 protesters for more than 48 hours. And West African Examination Council WAEC reveals disturbing malpractices in the just ended 2024 West African Senior High School Certificate Examination (WASSCE), including invigilators and supervisors displaying answers on projectors for candidates. Details of these and more in the next 30 minutes. Stay with us. Many thanks for joining us. The bulletin starts right here, right now. And a severe shortage of liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) has hit parts of Accra, leaving residents and businesses in a state of uncertainty. Marketers have cautioned that if the situation persists, it could lead to closure of gas stations across the country, disturbing daily life and causing significant inconvenience. Several gas retail outlets are displaying no gas signs, while long queues are forming at a few stations that have stock. In some parts of the country, consumers have been sighted carrying gas cylinders in search of the commodity. We're working the phone to speak to my colleague George Quaining, who has been following up on this story and been visiting some gas outlets on what the situation is like. George, if you can hear me, do you have an idea about what is causing this shortage? Hello, George, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Grace.
Yes, update us. Do you have an idea on what is causing this shortage?
Grace, so I spoke to Mr. Kumi, who is the president of the LPG Marketers Association. It's got to do with supply, bulk oil distributors. So these distributors take consignment from Tamale Oil Refinery. So that's where the major problem is coming from. So I spoke to a close source who works there, and he made me aware that that has been rectified. So we're hoping that with that supply challenge being rectified, it would manifest in the ensuing days. So maybe the next 2 days, the situation will normalize, Grace.
We know that you've also been speaking to some consumers. Tell us what they tell you and how it's impacting their lives.
Grace, it's a serious issue if you ask me personally. I've been to 6 gas stations and you only see signages of no gas there. So you move from your house, you get to this station, and then that's what you are greeted with. And in all this, you're supposed to pay for transport. One woman that I spoke to came from Labadi, went to Teshi, Nungwa, and got to Joel, where she met me, and she didn't get gas. Now she's moving to, what's the name, Alajo. She's a caterer. She's taking money to make an order for someone who is having a baby christening tomorrow. She's taking the money. So for her, she needs to get the gas. Because she's taking the money, she needs to get the gas. So look at somebody and how much she's going to pay for even her transport. Even if she doesn't get the gas, she's supposed to pay for that. So people come disappointed and then they go. One month, for instance, she doesn't buy food outside. So now she has no option than to buy food outside because she doesn't even do charcoal. People that are even going to resort to charcoal are complaining that the bag of charcoal is expensive. So it's comparing charcoal to gas, she tells me that it's better when you buy, let's say, 30 cedis gas, it can sustain you for a longer time than just, buying charcoal, which, burn quickly. So it's a mixed bag of feelings. So clearly, if nothing is written about this, I'm sure the repercussions would be dire, Grace.
Definitely, George. Thank you for bringing us updates. We hope that the situation is resolved quickly so that consumers can heave a sigh of relief. Let's now bring in the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association, Gabriel Kumi. Mr. Kumi, glad to have you join us this afternoon. If you can first give us a sense of the extent of this shortage and what specifically is accounting for it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I can confirm to you that the shortage is quite extensive, especially within the Greater Accra metropolis. But the good news is that this morning we have started loading from the depot. So we expect that within the next 24 to 48 hours, the supply situation on the ground should be normalized.
So update, you said within the next 22 to 24 hours, we should have a normalized situation.
24 to 48 hours. You know, what it is that it takes time to load this product and travel to the LPG stations. You need a bit of time to do your discharge so that it's done safely. And that will take a bit of time. The loading started this morning. We expect that the trucks will start traveling to the various destinations later this evening. And we again expect that by tomorrow, some of these trucks into the gas stations, discharge into the station tanks will begin. So hopefully from tomorrow afternoon going to Sunday, we expect the situation to be normal.
All right. So usually when there's shortage of any of these commodities and then the supply is finally restored, it also sometimes comes with some form of price hikes. Are we likely to see this?
Not at all. There's not going to be any price hike. I mean, LPG pricing is controlled. I mean, we are being controlled by the National Petroleum Authority. So you cannot just charge any price at range. We run a 2-week window period within which prices are supposed to go up, stay the same, or go down. And this is being monitored closely by the National Petroleum Authority. So consumers are not expected to pay anything more than what they are paying currently.
All right, Mr. Kumi, thank you for speaking to us. Gabriel Kumi is the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association, and he has told us that within the next 24 to 48 hours, the situation with a shortage in gas supply should be sorted so that consumers can have it at their nearest supply shop. If you just tuned in, this is the midday news on 3FM 92.7. Let's do other stories now. The Ghana Police Service has admitted to unlawfully detaining 2 protesters for more than 48 hours. The service says the officers involved in this disturbing occurrence are currently the subjects of internal disciplinary proceedings. This admission by the police is contained in its latest statement on events surrounding the Democracy Hub demonstration. Let's run you through details of the police statement. It says 54 persons arrested and arraigned so far. Suspect Gloria Vera Louise is not pregnant as claimed on social media. 50-year-old protester Grace Hammoah charged with offense of exposing a child to danger by bringing her to the demonstration grounds. The police administration has directed the Police Professional Standards Bureau, PPSB, formerly PIPS, to investigate the circumstances under which 2 of the suspects were kept in police custody beyond 48 hours without being sent to court for necessary disciplinary action to be taken against those responsible. Meanwhile, calls for the release of arrested democracy protesters have intensified, with pressure groups such as Africans Rising and the Economic Fighters League, among others, accusing the judiciary of miscarriage of justice in its handling of protest. This afternoon, movement coordinator Hadi Yakubu criticized the Accra Circuit Court decision to remand several protesters for an additional 2 weeks, asserting that the judiciary is complicit in unconstitutional and inhumane acts, thereby violating the rights of the protesters. My colleague Noble Crosby Annan has been sitting through that event by the movement and will join us for a conversation. Crosby, can you hear me? We understand there are concerns regarding the image this development casts on Ghana's democracy. Update us on that. Crosby, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello?
Crosby, I was asking that this, we understand this is casting some form of image on Ghana's democracy. Tell us more about it.
So, Grace, you know that the treatment of the protesters has been a subject of concern for the past days. Their arrest as well as their continuous remand in custody as allowed by a court is something that has been spoken about recently. Also, the treatment of the protesters while they are in prison or police custody, something that has also come up. Well, according to Nestle Abowis, the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Fighters League, one of the groups doing this press conference, the developments does not speak well for Ghana's democracy. They cast a dent towards a slur on the country's democracy, and it is something that needs to be addressed, particularly the conduct of the police officers, also the conduct of the judiciary in the handling of the case so far.
So we can listen to Hardy, and then we'll come back to you, Crosby.
Thank you.
Responsibility of the police service to disclose where detained people are kept. This is basic. It is not the responsibility of family and friends to go around looking for detained suspects. And up till now, some of them have still not been accounted for. We call on the Ghana police to immediately publish the full list of all those that were arrested and indicate specifically and exactly where they are being kept as of this moment. We also condemn the practice of the Ghana Police Service of moving detained protesters around in various police stations just to frustrate the family and friends and those well-wishers who wish to visit them in those places, as well as to provide them with the necessary legal assistance.
Crosby, so beyond the call and the press conference, have they notified you or the media if they are going to take any more further action against the police?
Well, essentially what they're saying is that the treatment by the police and the judiciary is not going to deter them in any way. They're asking that they are going to hit the streets again in the coming days, asking that the citizens be released, also demanding that Galamsey is halted. They're saying that although they do not have confidence in the judiciary, they will seek justice using the streets. They will not be deterred, or they will not be forced to abandon their democratically guaranteed right by the Constitution, which is their ability to the right to protest. They're also asking that they be released. They're asking the AG to discontinue the case, and they're asking that those who are in various custodies be treated well. Grace.
All right, Crosby, thank you for bringing us updates. My colleague, Noble Crosby, and I'm sitting through that press conference by the movement calling for a lot more action to be taken against the police for how they have handled some protesters of the Democracy Hub. Let's move away from this and talk about education. And if you have a ward, or if you had a ward who just sat for the just ended WASSCE, then you want to be interested in this conversation because the West African Examination Council, WAEC, has reported significant exam malpractices in this year's WASSCE at various centers. The council disclosed that photocopying of answers and distribution of same to candidates, hiding of foreign material on candidates in the examination halls, and smuggling of mobile phones into the examination halls by candidates and teachers were some of the infractions. According to Head of Public Affairs John Kapi, all examination officials found to have engaged in malpractices in the just ended WASSCE will be sanctioned. Mr. Kapi is thankfully joining us on the phone for a conversation. Sir, update us on how widespread these malpractices were.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. As we indicated in our press statement, we deployed our monitors, and there were other people who assisted us from National Security and then also from NAT and the Ghana Education Service. So these are the monitors who discovered some of these infractions at most of the examination centers across the country.
Mr. Kapi, so if you have to put regions to it. In which regions were these prevalent?
It will be difficult to be specific about prevalence because virtually every region, from the Upper West through the Volta region, Bono, Ahafo, Bono East, Western Central, virtually every region, except, of course, some of the areas where we still haven't received reports from our own personnel. You know, that's only when we can say that probably some regions were more prevalent than others.
Okay, so explain a bit more on the nature of this teaching. I mean, your press release, you mentioned that some lecturers were going to the extent of exposing or projecting answers on boards and projectors for the student. Talk to us a bit more on the detail or the nature of this cheating that the students engaged in.
Right. So we, besides those who concealed material on them, one of the new things that we discovered this year was the use of projectors to display answers on the board. Now they fixed these projectors in the ceiling of the hall, and then they directed them in such a way they could display the responses on the board. And so the students who were in the room were able to copy directly from the projected answers displayed on the board. Now, so this was one new thing that we discovered. Besides that, all the others are old things that we have seen before, just that maybe this time around there were a few additional centers that these photocopies were being used. And then also the use of mobile phones was a bit more prevalent than it was the previous year.
Copy. It brings us to the conversation out there that probably the West African Examination Council will have to be a bit robust with your security measures to prevent some of these, because it looks like every year the students and the teachers come up with a new technique. You don't agree?
Well, certainly there should be a conversation as to where we go next as far as this particular aspect of the exam is concerned. We are looking at computer-based testing that is quite remote for now, but then we think that if probably there's a broader conversation between us and our major stakeholder, the Ghana Education Service, parents, guardians, and indeed the entire country, all well-meaning Ghanaians who want to see education, progress in this country, should come on board and help us weed out these miscreants, or possibly, if there are better budgetary allocations, we may be able to recruit people that we can use, and then we dismiss as and when we realize that they are not up to the task.
My final one will be the fact that the council was worried about government indebted to you and how it might affect marking of the papers and all. Update us on the arrears. Has every amount been paid?
So far, we've received money, so marking of BEC is ongoing. There have been arrangements for the release of further funds for the post-examination activities regarding the WAS. But for now, because we are concentrated on the BEC, we want to get that one off our backs and then move on to the WAS. So I guess that based on the timelines established between the ministry and the finance directorate over here, we'll be able to get some funds to go ahead and carry out the post-examination activities regarding the WAS.
All right. John Kapi is Head of Public Affairs for the West African Examination Council, updating us on the latest trend of cheating in WASI and some other examinations conducted by the council. Let's move away from all of these issues and talk election, because this is your election command center. And the Electoral Commission has rejected the NDC's call for a forensic audit of the voters' register, insisting legal and administrative cleaning mechanisms have not been exhausted. The opposition party has in the last few weeks made a strong case, including a public protest across the country and engagement with interest groups to demand the audit. The Commission has been providing some answers, but Deputy Chairperson in charge of corporate services at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Bosman Asari, says the Commission's response to the NDC is comprehensive, thorough and justified.
We've maintained that all along, largely because the CI we are using for registration, which is CI 91 as amended by CI 126, when you look at regulations 23 and regulations 24, both two regulations provide a proper framework for auditing the voters register. And those processes have not been exhausted. So as a commission, we know that it is what the law allows. So we need to use that to be able to ensure that we have a register that is clean, that is robust, that is credible for the 2024 general election. We use that same procedure or that same approach to be able to clean the register in 2020. So we are not doing something which is so strange or something which has not been done before. Because when you look at the two regulations, 23, 24, they spell out what you do after registration. The law is very clear that after you have registered people, you have to display the register.
Your response to the NDC is coming 9 days after, they officially petitioned you to your offices here in the Greater Accra region and indeed across the country. Why did it take you so long to respond?
The time they were having, they had the peaceful demonstration, we had just finished our nomination exercise. And when you do the nominations, you go through a lot of processes. You have to review the documents, all those, the candidates brought, the presidential as well as even the parliamentary at the constituency level. So all these were activities being undertaken by the Electoral Commission. And we had to announce that some people had qualified to proceed to the next stage, which is becoming candidates for president, and others were equally not successful, or they were.
Dr. Bosman Asare is Deputy Chairperson in charge of corporate services at the Electoral Commission. Let's go to the quarters of the NPP because the ruling New Patriotic Party is reorganizing its base in the Ashanti region to meet the targeted 85% of vote share. Polls in recent times, especially from the Global Info Analytic, have placed the party in the 60% bracket. My colleague William Evans Inkum is joining us on what the NPP is doing to strengthen its base. Evans, first of all, what new strategy is the NPP adopting currently by way of support base? Evans, can you hear me? Hello, Evans, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great. Evans, I was asking what the NPP is adopting newly by way of whipping up interest in its support base.
I wish you could repeat the question again because the line was a bit vague.
I was asking what new the NPP is doing this time to whip up interest in its support base.
Well, so Beatrice, currently what the party is doing currently is that they want to ensure some level of uniformity as far as the various groups canvassing for votes for the ruling party flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is concerned. So hitherto, there were a number of groups, and they were all doing their own thing. But now, because of the fact that it is not, they are not in normal times. Considering the polls, which of course have been pulled out by some political survey, for example, like Global Info Analytics, they are taking all these things into consideration just to ensure that there's some level of uniformity in terms of political campaign, in terms of also the political message that they are going to use, especially with the digitalization, that will also convince the belief to convince a number of people to also, get them on their side going into the 7th December poll. So exactly what they are doing now. Now, which is what I have seen, which I haven't seen for some time, is the active involvement of the education minister. Mind you, just after Napo's name was mentioned as the running mate for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, he has been arguably dormant as far as political activity is concerned. Well, we've seen him on some few occasions with, the vice president, but those were isolated, occasions. But what we understand is that the B24 campaign, or the Bawumia 24 campaign, which is being launched today, he is going to be the patron. So it looks like we are going to see more of the education minister this time around as far as the MPP campaign in the Ashanti region is concerned, Beatrice.
All right, Evans, thank you for that update. We'll surely come back to you when that campaign is launched and what speakers there have been telling you. My colleague in the Ashanti region, William Evans, Inkum there. From the quarters of the NDC, former Attorney General, member of Ministry of Justice, and a staunch member of the opposition NDC, Betty Moult Idris, who says the ruling New Patriotic Party's target of securing 85% vote in the Ashanti region will remain a dream. Speaking after a campaign launch of the NDC in Menchia North constituency, she was optimistic that even traditional voters of the NPP will vote for the NDC this time, considering the clarion call for a change in government.
How, by any calculation or by any genuine election, they can pull that number. It's just not possible. It's totally impossible from all the signs we are having, from both the indigenous Ashanti and the settler community, from both our traditional voters, from the first-time voters, from the women, and from those who traditionally vote only MPP because a Yanya party. We have changed, and it's going to manifest in a really great way.
Former Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Betty Moult Idris, there, away from politics. There are fears some fish consumed here in Accra could be contaminated by chemicals flowing from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital's drains, which end up in the sea. My colleague Gordon Asediba uncovers this disturbing situation in his documentary, Troubled Morgues.
The mortuary system remains a disaster waiting to happen. Wastewater, now more toxic than ever, flows untreated from the mortuary into major drains.
The smell in here is absolutely unbearable. You can't be able to stay around for more than a minute. Now, it is alleged that the wastewater from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, together with its morgue, flows through its channels where it finally passes through this bigger drain which connects to the Kole Lagoon and finally settles in at the sea. This is unhealthy and poses serious health risk to the populace.
This untreated effluent contaminates the waters where local fishermen ply their trade, creating a public health hazard that extends far beyond the mortuary walls. Kojo Asante, not his real name, has been fishing along the seafront where the morgue's wastewater settles for over 20 years. Though aware of the situation, he continues to fish here with his colleagues. He awaits for the water to rise in the evening, believing it brings more fish to catch and sell.
Much fish na mowe.
Yeah, pa because we go for say and I mean you and once I watch you know
So you can catch the full Gordon Asediba's documentary on all our social media platforms. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Opoku Wariampoma, has assured that plans are underway to address the issues at the Kolebu Teaching Morgue, including fixing the drainage system. He shared this in a one-on-one interview again with Gordon Asediba.
It's in a deteriorating state. When was the last time you went there and what did you see?
I go there last week. I was there. The fact that the morgue is not necessarily in a deteriorating state. What most people don't know is that if you go anywhere in the world, okay, most cities have got a city morgue.
Okay.
Now this city morgue is a morgue where if you find an abandoned body, hit and run victim, murder victim, or there's a forensic investigation, they have to exhume a body.
Right.
That's where those bodies will be sent. Okay. Now. We don't have a city morgue in Accra.
Okay.
So Kolebu Teaching Hospital morgue has become the default morgue.
Okay.
So you always see hundreds of cases brought in. Now, if Kolebu decides that, look, these are not our cases, so we turn the bodies away, what will happen?
Right.
You see the kind of outcry that will be in society. But then we are storing all these bodies. Nobody pays Kolebu Teaching Hospital for storing these bodies.
Right.
No, we have to pay electricity bills at the end of the month.
So
Dr. Opokuwari Ampoma is the Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, wrapping up the midday news on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Stories that came through as headlines this afternoon. Shortage of LPG hit several outlets across the country, with consumers enduring long queues at a few outlets with available stocks. This afternoon, we told you why the Ghana Police Service has admitted to unlawfully detaining 2 protesters for more than 48 hours. And West African Examination Council reveals disturbing malpractices in the just ended 2024 WASSCE. Many thanks for joining us. Log on to 3news.com and get some more stories. Menua 4 stands by to update us in the world of business. Good afternoon.
Busy on this frequency, 92.7 3FM.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Bank of Ghana cuts policy rate to 27%, aligning with Fish Solutions forecast for end of 2024.
We judge the rates to inflation outlook as fairly balanced. Given these considerations, the committee decided to lower the monetary policy rate by 200 basis points to 27%.
We'll hear more from Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, shortly. Also, lack of internet connectivity cuts rural and peri-urban dwellers from e-commerce services.
If people are living in peri-urban or rural areas and don't have any connectivity, it's a market that is not buying online.
My name is Menu Afo. We'll bring you details of our headlines and many other stories shortly. Let's get on to the details. The Bank of Ghana has lowered its policy rate to 27%, down from 29%, in line with Fish Solutions forecast. The move comes despite underlying price pressures and strong domestic demand. Speaking at the 120th Monetary Policy Committee press briefing in Accra, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, expressed optimism that headline inflation will continue to ease to reach set range target of 13 to 17% by end of year, hence the decision to ease the bank's key lending rate.
Headline inflation since the first quarter has declined for the 5th consecutive month by 5.4 percentage points. Core inflation has also declined sharply over the same comparative period by 6.9 percentage points. These trends suggest that the disinflation process is on course. The latest forecast showed that the inflation will continue to ease towards the range target of 13 to 17% for the year, and steadily track back towards the medium-term target of 6 to 10% by the end of 2025, bearing unanticipated shocks. At the current juncture, the committee judged the rates to inflation outlook as fairly balanced. Given these considerations, the committee decided to lower the monetary policy rate by 200 basis points to 27%.
You heard the voice of Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison. Away from that, the German Agency for International Cooperation, GIZ, has highlighted that a significant number of Ghanaians are excluded from e-commerce services due to limited internet connectivity. Component Manager Emmanuel Mumuni emphasized that integrating the market is crucial for the growth of the e-commerce sector. He assured that GIZ is collaborating with stakeholders to enhance internet accessibility and boost e-commerce demand.
There are lots of people that are still not part of this digital transformation that we're talking about. And that's just a market that we are leaving out because if people are living in peri-urban or rural areas and don't have any connectivity, it's a market that it's not buying online. And the more we integrate them, the more we include them, it becomes another market segment that people selling online can attract or can sell to. And so we're working a lot with World Bank, with the ministry, to expand accessibility. So the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communication is doing a lot, installing telecommunication masts in various rural communities that they can have basic internet connectivity, and that would improve e-commerce as well.
You heard Component Manager at Chairman Agency for International Cooperation, GIZ, there. Now, Ghana has emerged as the fourth African country with the largest intra-African exports valued at $6.2 billion. That is according to African Export-Import Bank's Afreximbank's African Trade Report 2024. The following news desk report has details.
South Africa leads the pack with intra-African exports valued at $29.61 billion. Followed closely by Cote d'Ivoire with $11.38 billion and Egypt with $6.61 billion. Nigeria rounds out the top five with $5.63 billion in intra-African exports. The report reveals a significant increase in intra-African trade, rising from $137 billion in 2022 to $192.2 billion in 2023. Intra-African exports, which account for the largest share of trade, have grown from $72.8 billion in 2020 to $110.3 billion in 2023. Ghana's top export products to other African countries include gold, kitchenware, hose pipes and tubes, and crude petroleum oils. South Africa and Burkina Faso are Ghana's top export markets on the continent. The Afreximbank African Trade Report 2024 highlights regional bloc trade efforts as a key driver of intra-African trade growth. Southern Africa controls 41.1% of total intra-African trade, followed by West Africa with 25.7%, East Africa with 14.1%, North Africa with 12.4%, and Central Africa with 6.6%. African countries primarily trade industrial and value-added goods such as fuels, machinery, vehicles, ores, slag and ash, and iron and steel. The growth in intra-African trade is a positive development for the continent's economic integration and development. As African countries continue to strengthen regional trade ties, the prospects for sustainable economic growth and development look increasingly bright.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report on Ghana ranking 4th as an African country with the largest intra-African exports. Before we go, the Ghana Chamber of Mines has strongly opposed calls for a nationwide ban on mining, arguing that it's not a viable solution to combat illegal mining, locally known as galamsey. Amid growing concerns about the environmental and economic impact of galamsey, some have advocated for a complete halt to all mining operations in Ghana. However, the Chamber's Director of External Relations, Ahmed Natogma, emphasized the need to target illegal miners directly rather than shutting down the entire industry. During a recent media tour of mines in the Western region, Natogma stated that efforts should be directed towards addressing the root causes of illegal mining.
If somebody is doing illegal mining, then you can say you are banning, how are you going to ban something that's already illegal? All you need there is rather enforcement to make sure that people do not do the illegal activities. So when you put all mining companies together and you say ban it, then you are not saying the right thing. That would not be a solution. We have to look for those culprits who are involved in illegal mining activities, those who are in the water bodies, those who are polluting the environment, those who are destroying without recourse, without mitigation. Those are the people we should target. And I'm sure that when we target those ones, the rest of the industry will see that we are doing a good job. Mining has been going on in Takwa here for ages. Nobody has seen that kind of water before. But it is the small-scale miners, the illegal ones who are in the water bodies, who are actually polluting the environment. And we think that something should be done about it. But as for banning, the thing is already illegal. So if they are illegal, so how do you ban it? Make sure you enforce the law. Get to where they are, take them out of the river bodies, and make sure they don't come back. And you see that the water will be clear.
That was Director of External Relations at Ghana Chamber of Mines, Ahmed Natugma there. Well, that's it for Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, kindly log on to our website. It's www.3news.com. My name is Minu Afo. Stay tuned. Urban Blend is up next with Black Rasta.